Hey, welcome to Pretty Well. Do you want to get to the root causes of your health concerns? Do you find yourself Googling, why do I feel this way? And looking for solutions to feel great again? I'm Lisa Smith, and I too felt exhausted, achy, and like I was aging too quickly. I wanted to look and feel like myself again and spent way too much time and money going to practitioners, even functional medicine practitioners, and not getting results. So I became a functional medicine practitioner myself and learned how to identify and fix root causes to health issues. The good news is there is so much you can do to reclaim your wellness. In this podcast, you'll find quick, simple, and evidence-based guidance that you can easily fit into your day so your energy will be soaring, your mind clear, and your skin will return to its beautiful glow. Let's dive in. Hey, welcome back to the Pretty Well podcast. I'm Lisa Smith, and today I'm excited to bring a very special guest to you. Today we're talking with Adi Wyshogrod. Adi is a registered and licensed dietitian. She's the co-founder and chief operating officer of Everlong. Everlong is a national telehealth nutrition counseling company, and it helps people transform their relationship with food and build habits that last. Everlong's behavior-changing dietitians offer virtual insurance-covered care that's practical, sustainable, and free from guilt. Welcome, and thank you for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited for this conversation.
Dee, let's talk about how Everlong even came to be. I understand part of your mission is to change the way people experience nutrition counseling. So it's not just another food plan or diet or grocery list, but really focusing on behaviors and emotions and the habits that drive food choices. So how did this begin?
When I was about 12 or 13 years old, I struggled with my own weight loss journey. I was kind of starting my weight loss journey. I struggled with my relationship with food. Of course, at that time, I didn't understand what was happening. Later on, I realized what was going on. I think a lot of people, it starts at a very young age, their relationship with food and kind of the way they view food and their bodies. And what happened is I actually went and saw my very first own dietitian right around that time. And I also started exercising. I went to like a YMCA type facility and I ended up losing about 40 pounds of my own, in a sustainable manner, slowly really learning about food and the way it makes you feel as it relates to exercise and nourishing your body. And then I went on to study nutrition. And I remember specifically while studying nutrition, thinking, oh, I'm really interested in psychology too. Can I blend the two? In dietetics, you have one or two psychology courses, but you're not really diving into nutrition and food and how it impacts your habits or vice versa. I really began to, when I started counseling patients after I became a dietitian, I noticed this is not just about the food. There's way more going on here. And I need to figure out some training to help these patients overcome this relationship with food or these struggles they're having. As I was counseling patients over the years, I started to see that this is not like a fluke, right? This is a trend. This is important for people to really dive deeper into their relationship with food. And so when we started Everlong, we really focused and looked for dietitians that have this other additional training that's not just in, the clinical medical nutrition therapy piece, but more so in the behavioral health side as well, right? So really having counseling skills, knowing how to truly help someone improve their relationship with food and figure out where these habits and beliefs around food come from, because that drives long-term change more so than just handing a meal plan to someone and saying, hey, go figure this out. So that's really what we do at the core, is work with people on that deeper level to transform their relationship with food and help them move forward long-term as opposed to a quick fix or short-term solution.
You are hitting on the actual root of the matter. I've taught weight loss for years, and some people get the concept of what needs to change and they change it from an identity standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
When that identity transfer doesn't happen. And I've been there too on both sides of it, where when I was much younger, like didn't even realize what I didn't know,
Right.
kept all these different fads and nothing stuck. But
Mm-hmm.
then when you realize that there's something deeper going on, that's when the change gets legs and it sticks.
Right.
I appreciate that you're bringing sustainable health improvement, sustainable change, but also there's a lot of joy that comes in that change as well.
Hmm.
Because you look and you're like, oh my gosh, the self-competency goes through the roof. You're like,
Right.
lots of people come to nutrition counseling and they have years of guilt and shame. How, with Everlong, does your organization help people to unravel and unlearn those patterns? And then what does that look like in practice, that sustainable change?
It starts with the provider patient relationship is a big piece. At the beginning, what we do is we have you dive into a pretty deep intake. So we'll ask a lot of questions around your current habits, past habits, history of dieting, thoughts around food, body, relationship with food. And of course, we also ask, what does your routine look like? What do you do for work? All of these things that are going to impact help us get to the root cause. And so when you have all of that information and you're working with a provider on a weekly basis, so you really get to know your provider on a deeper level, they get to know you, and you're able to share those things as you're comfortable. What we do in practice is really finding, okay, what are your long-term goals? How can we help you get there in a sustainable way? We create what we call a treatment plan, which really looks at what can we do in the next 3, 6, 9 months and beyond to help you get to where you want to go. And in each of those sessions, what we're doing is we're unraveling smaller pieces of that. Where did this thought around food start? How can we figure that out? Well, let's start by saying, what is that thought? And if we date it back to when did this start? Oh, I have this specific thought around food. And I remember that it started when I was sitting in the cafeteria in 7th grade, eating my lunch with my friends or whatever it is. The only way to truly make change is to dive into it. So when you have set goals with a specific provider, accountability support, someone who understands, and you have the steps to take in between each session in order to work toward that plan, that's when real change can happen. It's not quick. It's not forever, though. People usually see some positive changes within a week or two. It's definitely a longer process that when you commit to it can truly, it's life-changing if you allow it to be and are open to it.
It really is. Do you find sometimes that it takes a little extra digging because maybe there isn't that memory of that 7th grade incident? It's just been programmed in over years. So do you find sometimes it's unpeeling the onion? What do you find with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think that example that I just used, it sounds like, oh, okay, that's easy. I might remember that. That could take months to get to. So, what usually happens is people don't realize how all these things create your relationship with food. They might be used to, maybe they've gone to another provider that's kind of just said, write down what you eat and let's assess it together. And that's it. It's very surface level. And so they might feel like they don't have discipline, or they might feel like they're the problem, that they can't reach their goals, when in reality, it's all of these wired thoughts, these maybe traumatic events around food, relationship with food. And so when they begin to discuss it more, it does take time, and they might need some time to understand how they come together. So absolutely, it's not as easy as just saying, oh yeah, I know this started at this date at this time, but really that's where feeling comfortable and having the correct support and accountability around this is going to make more positive change than coming and maybe feeling uncomfortable. We hear that a lot. People maybe being uncomfortable with past providers, and so they didn't really get very far with figuring this out.
For sure. There's so much to that where past providers may have reinforced some of those thoughts that keep people stuck. But you mentioned that many dietitians don't have training in the emotional side of eating. From Everlong's standpoint, what makes that approach different? And then I have a follow-up question.
So historically, dietitians are trained in what's called medical nutrition therapy. Think hospitals, clinics. I know you're familiar with this, but for those in the audience listening, it's really started with somebody maybe goes to a hospital or a clinic for some health concern, and the dietitian's role is to come in and educate a little bit on, while you're here, this is the diet that we're going to recommend. Or while you're staying in this long-term care center, this is the nutrition that you're going to receive based on your medical needs. So in that sense, it's still a little bit personalized. Dietitians miss the counseling piece, and we've never had a chance to practice it. It's not being taught or trained. So most people that have worked in outpatient centers doing some form of nutrition counseling, they're meeting with a patient once for 20, 30 minutes and then not again for months, or they're lucky if they can see them once a month. Normally it's every 3 or 6 months. And so when you look at where dietitians started and what we've done, nobody really saw the bigger picture of how dietitians come into play with the emotional and psychological side related to food. And there's a lot of training and transition that needs to be done in the industry and in the field. The difference with the dietitians that we have is we do initial onboarding and training related to this. We put our dietitians through a specific training program. We do ongoing training. In addition to that, we bring in mental health professionals, behavioral health professionals that can help train. The dietitians that we hire have backgrounds working in eating disorder care or mental health, behavioral health facilities, and have had the experience working on that emotional side or have worked alongside mental health professionals. So they have hands-on experience and learn from other people. It's a niche of dietetics. It's not easy to find, but it's important we continue that training. It's proven, right, that the type of counseling that we're doing is leading to long-term change rather than a visit every 3 or 6 months. You eat a lot of meals in 3 or 6 month period, right? So there's a lot of decisions that you don't have support for when you're not able to meet someone more frequently.
Mm-hmm. How do you see behavioral nutrition support reshaping the future of nutrition care?
What's really exciting is it's actually slowly, there's a couple universities in the country that are adding these types of classes to their curriculum. So there's a couple universities that have specific tracks or kind of angles you can take when you're studying dietetics and nutrition, where you'll learn these things. Also, now all dietitians need their masters. And so there's opportunity to go to school to get your masters and add more of these classes. So I do think that we're moving that way. It's going to take a lot of time, just like anything in most healthcare industries, but there are steps toward that. And so I believe that will be a standard over time with dietitians and our curriculum. I also think that when we look at patient outcomes and patient feedback, we're going to see that it's inevitable. The people that are reaching their goals and have long-term change, they're the ones that are getting this type of support versus people that are relapsing to old habits and seeing a dietitian forever. Like, that's not the goal. We want to help you kind of spread your wings and fly on your own after some time. I do think that dietitians currently in the field will start to see that if they're assessing their patient outcomes. Where can I improve to truly help this person so that 2, 3, or 4 years from now, they're not back to where they started, but they've met those goals in the treatment plan and feel like they can sustain them for their entire life.
How long do you typically, I realize everyone's unique, how long do you work with the average patient?
We see our patients for about 9 to 12 months. What that looks like is more frequent sessions at the beginning and a kind of first 6 months. And then it might go down to more of a maintenance. Everybody's different. This is average, like you said. It might go down to biweekly or monthly sessions when somebody's in the maintenance phase, but we're still checking in with them to ensure that they're feeling confident about their changes. You know, they feel like they're sustaining it, those habits. And then everyone has seasons of life. So somebody might feel great, and then holidays are coming up and they need a little extra support. Different phases and seasons of life are going to bring up new emotions around food and nutrition and impact your goals. And it's okay to seek support, even if you feel like you are where you want to be. Sometimes we all need some support in different times, and that's completely fine.
And you just teed up my next question beautifully. And that is because we do go through seasons. It can be great for a year and a half. And we hit a really stressful season or just something that's messier than normal. So what have you learned throughout your experience about helping people to build habits that actually last, even during the stressful, messy times of life?
I think the biggest piece is taking the time to reach that habit and not giving up on it, and knowing that those consistent steps toward those habits are what's going to keep you there. And then also being willing to work through them in the different seasons. So if we take a step back, I think first it's figuring out what's going on. What are your thoughts? What's driving those decisions around food? But once you get there and you have a plan in place and you can move forward with those small, consistent steps, it's trusting the process and knowing that that might be great for a year and a half, and then something comes up. One story I really like to share is we've been working with somebody for 4 years, and we've worked with him through graduating college, leaving parents' house, getting a new job, meeting a partner, moving in with a partner, all of these different phases. And throughout each phase, we have seen challenges come up. And so to answer your question, it's sustainable habits doesn't mean that you won't have, fallbacks where it might be a little bit of a challenging time. And so learning to understand that that is going to happen and that's fine is going to help you move forward in a sustainable way rather than giving up and saying, okay, this is a hard season, so what's the point?
I think that builds a lot of confidence to be able to have somebody coming alongside of you and saying, okay, I know this is a tough stage of life now.
Right.
Because we all have them, they just go in waves. And so to be able to say, now what do we do? And challenge them that they can do it, continue to be successful. That particular patient, after each of those seasons, now sees how he's able to navigate those. That's been not only life-changing, but that sets him up for a successful life for
Absolutely.
the rest of his life. Knows what to do if he feels like things are falling apart.
Right. And I think that's if you are stick with the process, that is the benefit and the reward of, okay, this might be a challenging couple months. What my like perfect ideal habits might not be the case for the next 3 months. And I'm okay with that. And I think sounds way simpler than it is, but I think it can take time to get there. Once you get there, that's where actual life-changing results happen. And that's where you will not fall back to old habits.
I'm sure your practitioners do a very good job building trust because that's what you need. You need to have trust that when you tell me I can be successful, I actually can kind of believe you because years and years of not being able to sustain that progress, it can be so deflating.
Right.
So, and that leads to like for people who have been living for years, maybe even decades with food, what's one powerful reframe that they could take away today to help them start to break that pattern, that thinking pattern?
I think it's never too late to start. They always say it's never too late to start over with a partnership, a new career, a move, or whatever it is that you wanted to do. Just because it's something that you've been struggling with for years or decades doesn't mean that 6 months from now, everything can look different. And so it's important to share that it is never too late. We work with people that are 18 and younger, and we work with people that are 50, 60, 70, 75, 80. They want to work on these things to feel better. It's never too late to either completely change that or even make small changes if you feel like there's stuff in your life or your health that you want to improve.
What are some common limiting beliefs that you see over and over that someone listening might say, oh my gosh, that's me. I have been thinking that for years.
Time is definitely a big one. I'm feeling like there's no time to commit to this. I know I mentioned the weekly session. One way to look at that is you are putting this powerful hour aside each week for yourself. And so you're giving yourself the ability. It's actually kind of a free scheduled session that you don't have to think about. You're like, okay, I don't have to do, I mean, of course there's work to do, right? But I think you don't have to worry about it. It's like when you go to a fitness class, if I show up, the teacher's going to tell me or help me with where to go next and what to do. So I think that's one way to think about it. More so than just sessions, even if you weren't working with a dietitian, feeling like you have to dedicate so much time when it can take 5 or 10 minutes a day to move forward, to make, do a positive habit, to stop doing something that you feel like isn't fulfilling you. Time is a big one. And like you said, trusting yourself or feeling like, why would it work now when I've been doing these things for the last 20 or 30 years? Reframing that into, okay, there is a different way. if what you've been doing for 20 or 30 years hasn't served you, then the only option is finding another way. And even though it's challenging and there's the fear of the unknown, I think moving forward with something new can actually open your eyes to a lot and help reduce that limiting thought.
I hear a common theme in both of your answers as self-care. It's making, whether it's the time or the trust, the belief that things can change. We do make time for the things that are most important to us. We all
Right.
have the same number of hours in a day. To be able to take a step back and say, this is time for me. Similar to if I scheduled a massage or a facial or time at the gym or a walk, just time to decompress. It's being able to put yourself first to take care of yourself. So let's talk about Everlong. It's all virtual, but it's also usually covered by insurance, right? That is a differentiator in your business.
Mhm.
Tell us how that works and how that really is a benefit to people.
Yeah. So most insurance plans, it's actually over 95% of people that will land on our site and confirm their coverage are going to be 100% covered. All of Everlong's current patients that we are in network with their insurance are fully covered. It's a guarantee. They're not going to pay anything out of pocket if we confirm your coverage. And I think a big piece of that, of course, it's accessibility for those that have that insurance that we're in network with. We also see patients in all 50 states. So it opens up, we're in network with a major insurance, and the states is a big piece. But I also think what that does is, back to the question you just asked of what are those thoughts or barriers, it takes that piece away. And I think most people don't know, it's newer that dietitians are fully covered by insurance. I think that for sure has been a barrier, a thought of like, oh, I could never afford, let alone a private dietitian. And so now it really changes the conversation and takes away that barrier for most people. And then when that's the case, it's less stressful because you're not worrying, oh, I'm putting money into this. It allows you to take a step back, really say, okay, this piece is done. Now let me figure out how I'm going to get myself to these sessions and put that time, that self-care for me. But it takes away a huge question mark, right? That most people for years have had.
And the other thing that goes hand in hand with that is that even when you do sign up, say you're going to pay out of pocket for a dietitian, you have in the back of your mind, how long is this sustainable? Can I do this? Can I actually pay
Right.
weekly 6, 9, 12 months? Or is this something that I'm going to start and then I'm going to have to stop? And then when I stop,
Mm-hmm.
it goes back to the way it was.
Right.
So how do you help people reconnect to the joy of eating instead of there's so much guilt associated? How do you bring pleasure and freedom back while helping still reach their health goals?
Yeah. So big piece is finding where those negative thoughts around food are coming. Are they coming up around certain events, holidays, times of year, foods? All of those things can trigger these emotions. By starting there and creating that awareness, we can slowly pick apart and figure out where are the pieces that we need to work on so that you have joy around the holiday season, the fair you like to go to in the fall, or your favorite dessert that you like to bake. If we don't create the awareness of the guilt or shame or anxiety around that, you can't move to joy without first understanding where it comes from and when it comes up. And then when you take that away, food becomes the joyful social thing that it is instead of this negative monster that you're always thinking about.
When people especially try, they're like, I'm going to do it myself, or I work out with a trainer and they tell me how to eat. It often just gets reduced to numbers. Years ago, it was calorie count, then it was fat count, then sugar and carb count, and macros are somewhat of a buzzword. What do macros get right, and then what do they miss?
The biggest piece that I think people forget about or maybe don't understand right away when it comes to macros is basically macros, looking at macronutrients, you're just figuring out how to have a balanced meal that works for you and your body. If you focus on just learning and being educated on what does balanced nutrition look like for me, then what happens is you're able to find what works for you without tying it to those numbers. I think what happens is they miss, how do I feel about food? What are my emotions around food, when it's just focusing on the macronutrients and not adding, how do these macronutrients make me feel and how are they fueling my body? So when you put those together, you're not going to get that from a tracker. You will get that from taking a step back. And that's something we do with sessions, looking at the week and saying, how did you feel around these foods? Physically, what were your thoughts, emotions around it? What was your hunger level before and after eating it? And when you look at those things, you see that logging macronutrients and learning about what a balanced plate is are basically equal, except one comes with a lot of guilt or triggers around the numbers. And then the other is really looking at the whole picture health rather than just one piece of it.
It goes hand in hand with the joy of food, the joy of enjoying your meals and eating not just for fuel, which is important, but it's only half the story. Also eating for nourishment and community and enjoyment.
Right.
Yeah. What are some common myths that you would like to debunk that people believe about food or about their own ways of eating?
I think the biggest myth or belief that people have is that it's good or bad. Like you have to either be on or off. That's entirely not the case. In fact, somewhere in the middle and learning what foods fuel you and make you feel good, and also what foods bring you joy and maybe are not foods that you would have every day, but still absolutely fit into a balanced diet for you. That is one thing that I think if we all leaned into, it would make our journeys around nutrition and health, whatever our goals are, a lot easier. Because if you always focus or come from a, it's either I'm either on or off lens, or it's good or bad, it's going to be a lot harder to be successful long term, because that's not really how it works. You're always going to have things come up. You might feel like you're in an on mode, and then you go to a work event or a happy hour and then you're off. And then immediately when you're off, you're like, oh, what's the point? I might as well give up now. It's very common. We've all been there. Doing that is going to lead you away from that sustainable path of commitments and consistencies toward your long-term goal. I think we see that with almost everybody that comes in. Just we're kind of wired that way. Food is either good or bad, and you're either on a diet or a plan or you're off.
Yeah, that is great. How many times have you thought yourself or even had patients or clients come in and they use the words, I've been bad this week?
Right. And what does that mean?
Yeah, it's just subconscious. I was doing great till I went on vacation, and then I was really bad and I haven't been able to get back on track. And part of that not getting back on track is the guilt and shame associated with being bad when it's not even bad. Like as you neutralize that good and bad, I love that you help people, you empower them to say, no, made a decision to enjoy vacation. I often use and love this mental picture about it, saying I ate badly, now I might as well just throw in the towel. It's like I dropped my cell phone. I might as well just start stomping on it. Like, you can just
doesn't make sense.
You just pick your cell phone up. You enjoyed your vacation. Now start eating in a way that makes you feel good again. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. What are you most excited about for the future?
I think the biggest piece is more people understanding that this care exists. There's dietitians covered by insurance, and then there's this piece of, okay, this is more of a transformative relationship with a dietitian that I didn't maybe know existed. So I think the more people know about this, the exciting piece is there's more opportunity to help people break out of these cycles and these struggles and really transform their relationship with food. I do think we're moving toward that, but we're still in I can get a dietitian covered by insurance, but I don't really know what they can help me with. And so it's our job at Everlong as an industry to really help people understand what a dietitian can help with, even if it's something like I have been diagnosed with diabetes. Okay, well, we can help with blood sugar and A1C control and all of those things related to your diabetes. You have this chronic condition from certain habits, conditions, or family history, all of these pieces that lead you to have this diagnosis. We're going to unpack that. And it's not just going to be about the food. It's going to be about how can we reverse this or improve your labs from looking at everything underneath the surface of this is a diabetes diagnosis. So I think just the movement toward that and more people knowing and understanding what dietitians can help with this training, and understanding that if they've had an experience with a dietitian before, it could look different with another provider if they're open to that experience.
You bring the trifecta of bringing the evidence-based dietetics along with insurance coverage, and then you bring this emotional, mental piece along, and it really completes the circle. I love what you're bringing to the market for sure. So tell us how people find you. Of course, I'll have it in the show notes, but for those listening right now.
Yeah, you can find us at geteverlong.com. So get and then Everlong, like the Foo Fighters song. On there, you can verify your insurance coverage instantly, and then you can get scheduled with somebody, and then also read a little bit more about our approach and the types of conditions we see. We work with a lot of different patients with different conditions and backgrounds. So it's just geteverlong.com.
And what about social media?
We're also at geteverlong on Instagram and TikTok.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really enjoyed talking with you.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. And guys, thanks for joining in today. I'll look forward to talking with you next week. Until then, stay pretty well.